Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation. Our presentation today is on streamlining Windows profile management with ProfileUnity. We're joined today by Jason E. Smith and Jack Smith, who are going to take us through today's presentation. But before we have them take us off, I just wanted to cover a bit of housekeeping with you. Today's presentation is being recorded, so keep an eye on your inbox in the day or so after this event for a link to the recording. And we'll also include some other links that'll be useful to you in that follow-up email as well. You can use that recording for review, or we encourage you to share it with a colleague that maybe couldn't make it today that you might think that this would be of interest to them. If at any point during today's webinar you have a question or a comment for any of our panelists, please feel free to direct them via the Q&A section, and we'll do our best to address comments and questions as time allows. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and turn things over to Jason E. Smith, and he's going to take us start off the presentation. Jason?
Thanks, Ray. Excited to be doing this one. It is one of the core things that we do as Liquidware, streamlining Windows profile management. And also excited to have all of you with us today on the panel, and Jack, subject matter expert for this solution, so we can talk about real-world use cases out there. We always level set our webinars talking about exactly what Liquidware does, and this has not changed since the beginning. We've been around since 2009, and we provide workspace management across any type of Windows environment. Now, it's true that we came to the market when VDI was in a sweet spot years ago, but now we support every type of desktop. If you look across the bottom there, virtual cloud, physical, DAS, does not matter. Primarily, these are Windows workspaces, and also in the case of our DEX monitoring and optimization, we support Linux endpoints and Linux operating systems and thin client OSs. We provide digital workspace management across all of these environments. Now, you may run into a tool from a vendor, such as a VDI vendor that overlaps with us a bit, that touches on one thing from that. And I'm really stressing a tool, right? Because we go beyond it with a solution, even in one of those things. So if you have profile management from FSLogix, we have deep, rich user and app management with ProfileUnity that complements such a thing. And then you'll see that in some of our other sets too, where there's a tool out there that does it, but we go well beyond it to provide you with the most robust use case for enterprises that are running all different types of Windows, or if you want to just make one specific thing run better and work better across any type of Windows and manage those users better, giving you digital workspace management across all of those. And also, our suite allows you to manage any Windows experience as if it's a non-persistent desktop, even the physical endpoint. So you can get all those benefits out there of delivering any type of Windows desktop and not be worried if you have to switch out that desktop with something else at any given time. That's because we decouple the user experience, and we decouple user management from the Windows OS itself, and we make sure that's synced up every single time a user logs on. So let's run through these real quick. We'll start from the bottom up in this case, because we're going to spend the most time with ProfileUnity today with the streamlining of profile management. We have quality and leading DEX solutions, digital employee experience solutions, that are recognized in the industry. As a matter of fact, we're in the Gartner MQ for those solutions, but we go beyond it with the other things that we do. So it's not all that we do with DEX, with our Stratosphere solution, giving you in-depth monitoring and optimization, the deepest, widest data that you're going to find out there in the industry. If there's a Windows or a user metric that can be monitored, we will find it with Stratosphere, and that is our claim to fame there. We have the deepest, widest data, and then we also have intuitive dashboards that can be customized just for your use to pull that type of data, exactly what you're looking for, or what the direct reports in your department are looking for on a weekly basis, to be able to see that quality DEX, that the desktop you say you're delivering is indeed a quality desktop, and if not, how you can find root cause in there to true it up, to bring it up to speed with improving the even physical endpoints or the VDI environment, the DAS environment, changing from one level of a DAS subscription to the next to give more powerful desktops. That is Stratosphere UX. We literally coined the phrase user experience when we brought that solution to market at the inception of Liquidware. And then we have a solution that complements that with real-time remediation from command control. Now it provides decks from a slightly different perspective, knowing exactly what's going on when someone calls the help desk and be able to troubleshoot really quickly. We've got a feature in there known as switch. So someone calls the desktop, maybe they've got multiple desktops like you see here that we support, virtual, cloud, and physical, and they say, my desktop's slow. Well, that's a pretty general statement, but with command control, you can look at all 3 desktops that they're logged onto at a glance without having to go through and look those up and look up machine names and usernames and try to find the desktop they're talking about. And you can troubleshoot and you can figure out which one is having a degradation in performance really quickly, and you can troubleshoot that. You can stop and start processes similar to as if you were local with a task manager. You can run a script to do something really quick to tune something up. And then you can also choose the remote control of choice for your own compliance to be able to even remotely control that machine if needed. Has a DVR type feature for all the telemetry coming in from the user experience, so you can go back in time and say, well, was this happening before you went on break? Well, let's go back and look. And you can see all the telemetry happening in real time right there. And then you can use that to identify root cause. Part of ProfileUnity that we'll be speaking about today that is part and parcel to the way you manage it is our application portability, or our dynamic attached applications. And we really lead in this area of FlexApp, attaching an application just in time. So those follow a user no matter what Windows desktop they're on. Install an application once and it follows the user even to a physical desktop and laptop. It can even go offline and be cached down to the endpoint. Features in there that you've not seen in any similar technology out there. With the end of life, partial end of life of AppV occurring in just a few months, you really should be looking at FlexApp to have a similar result and to take over applications like that. And we have several features in there that can go and lead in that area. MSIX, if you've been disappointed that the vendors of the world have not developed for MSIX yet, so therefore there's a low compatibility rating when you try converting apps, FlexApp's got a high compatibility rating of about 90-something%. We've even gotten some of our customers to 100% of their applications being delivered with FlexApp attached. So it minimizes base image management and does several things there that really help you get modern with your application management. It surpasses MSIX, although it can run with those packages. If you're getting those native from a vendor, no need to compete with it, right? They provided you an MSIX package. You can deliver it with Intune that way. ProfileUnity can even do MSIX packages natively on a context-aware basis. If you've still got a few AppV packages you want to run, that's fine too, because the sequencer in the packager for AppV is not end of life. The server portion is. So ProfileUnity can deliver those out there and take the place of the server as you're going forward, because that is end of life. And then while all the meanwhile, while you're modernizing the way you're delivering these, package them up with FlexApp or automate that, and that's what FlexApp is about. So the last one here that I'll speak about before we get into the heart of the matter today is part of the heart of the matter. It is ProfileUnity full user and app management. User management is what we've been known for years. As we've added features in there, we're now known for managing applications as well. We can deliver those AppVs, we can deliver those MSIX packages, and we can deliver and manage FlexApp, our own technology, with one central console there. And again, it unifies all parts of the profile, not just the profile itself. Yeah, I've got FSLogix, I'm good. No, you're probably having some issues, and we'll go through some of those today, and we'll remind you of them, profile corruption and others. And you need full user management if you're an enterprise. You have context-aware use cases. You have group policy preferences that you're losing maybe because you've gone to AAD and you no longer have the ability to do those for certain desktops and users. You're having to go back to ADMX scripts that are loosely managed. You're having to go back to scripts, and you don't want to do that. ProfileUnity can give you group policy preference type things, policies across all your Windows desktops, give you one point of command for that, full user and app management from one central console. Also taking over for the lack of innovation from other companies out there. How Avanti Workspace Control, end of life now, so you need to move to something else. Avanti Environment Manager, really, we lead in that space. It's not a parking spot here for ProfileUnity. We innovate in that space, and we'll continue to do so, and that's why a lot of customers are coming to us. All right, so streamlining profile management. Now, for ProfileUnity and FlexApp, we have 4 main use cases that customers come to us for. And we've made today's a little bigger, right, right there on the screen. We're going to be talking about streamlining profile management. If you want to know more about that comprehensive user management I spoke about, we did an entire webinar on it lately. We did another one on modernizing application delivery. You can go out there and look at our YouTube channel, and you can find those and watch those at your leisure. And we're going to be doing one on transforming Windows workspaces from one delivery method to another and how we solve that use case in an upcoming webinar. A little later, you'll see that on our calendar, right? Streamlining profile management, how you can replace tools, how you can replace roaming profiles, you can replace the problems that you might be having, such as corruption, or the lack of the ability to really manage the profile with ProfileUnity and streamlining profile management. Okay, this is one set of features in ProfileUnity that bring you the profile. Other parts of ProfileUnity bring you policies that we talked about today. Other parts of ProfileUnity bring you the ability to manage user data that we talked about today. Other parts of ProfileUnity also manage applications on a context-aware basis. So that's full user management, unifying all parts of the profile. But today we're talking about the profile piece. It's a small part of ProfileUnity. Everything we spoke about right here in user management is licensed one way. You have access to all of it when you have ProfileUnity. But we're going to focus on profile challenges today for the webinar. Now, let's just level set and state what some of those are. Jack, you want to start to run through some of these as I've been speaking a bit? It's always good to break up the speakers, right?
Sure. So ProfileUnity and what they do. Well, the big one really is migrations, right? A part of migrations. So we like to say profile management, the side effect of a profile management is being able to roam the profile or migrate the profile. Because of the way we do the profile management, we're not moving the NT-DAT hive around. We're not trying to do anything like that. We are pulling tables out of the registry. So we can move from operating system to operating system because of that, right? We're not trying to move those pieces around. We can extend and replace those FSLogix. So we can say, all right, leave your old disk behind, create a new disk, move the settings over, let the disk rehydrate. We can help reduce login times and eliminate corrupt profiles because of that. Again, those tables being pulled out. Unfortunately, the disk technologies didn't fix the corruption profile or the corrupt profile problem or the profile bloat issue, if you will. It fixed the speed, but it didn't correct a lot of the other issues that were inherent with roaming profiles. With adding on the portability part in conjunction with the disk technologies, that does fix that. In turn, you can delete the profile, let it refresh, put the settings and registry keys and the files back in, and poof, you're back to where you were without all that bloat and all that parts and pieces that were the bad part of the profile. You can use the profile disk technology to handle O365, OneDrive, or large profile types. We are also not limited to just Office, right? FSLogix, you're going to be limited to just the Office pieces. If you're a G Suite customer and you want to pick up stuff out of your Google environment, we can just attach disks for just Google if you wanted to. If you want to do a disk for not the whole profile, but a part of it, you can do that too. You can attach disks outside of the profile, right? We're not limited to C user. You want to do like C database, we can do things like that where we're even outside of the scope of what would be considered a natural profile. Things like a Bloomberg, write files out to like C Bloomberg. And then that's kind of the point. The unifying all of the parts of the operating system is being able to pick the parts and pieces out of the OS, not just the profile parts. So that policy, that profile, the app data, the different parts of the OS that we can bring together into one.
So we've spoken a little bit about profile disk, FSLogix, and then profile portability. So I want to level set us for conversation purposes so the audience understands. We largely look at modern profile management as having two ways to manage that. A profile on disk, that's FSLogix. That's also our profile disk technology. You could choose one or the other. They run very, very similar. We've got some flexibilities they might not have, and they've got some things that they do that we have, but they might be more embedded because they're part of the tool from Microsoft, right? And then we've got portability of a profile. So we're talking about a portability of the profile. We literally, as profile experts, go back to the beginning of Liquidware, 2009. And then even before that, ProfileUnity was a product of a company that I was working with, a very small company that rolled into Liquidware that was called ProfileUnity. This goes back, my point is, all the way back to even a few years before that. We are profile experts, and we've identified parts of the profile, parts of the OS that make up the user profile. Yeah. And not just application data, for example, right? We've also identified parts of the registry that make up the user profile. We've also identified things that don't need to be portable, caches and things like that. You don't need the bloat. So when we talk about a portable profile, we're capturing and extracting with rule sets, like 30-something rule sets, files, and registry keys that make up a smart profile. That is profile portability, and it's far more flexible. And when we bring that down to the data point, it sounds like we're moving a lot of data, right? We're going to compress it 50 to 1, and we're also going to eliminate the bloat areas. And then we're also going to do it on a delta differential. So if part of the profile is in the disk, the profile disk or the FSLogix disk, we're not going to bring that back down. We're only going to bring down the things that change in those 31, 35, 40 rule sets that make up a smart profile. And then you get the best of both worlds, the ability to restore a profile disk if it goes down, bring the whole thing down, uncompress it, put it back at the endpoint because you've had to reset a corrupt profile. And then you also get the ability to go cross OS with a portable profile. Yep. One of the things that it does when it does this is cross OS version profile conversion. And we really have hung our hat on this for a long time. This goes back again to even just prior to Liquidware with ProfileUnity doing this in 2008 or so, where we said, our technology works across XP and 7. Back then we were looking at it, right? But now we've updated all along the way. We support all these operating systems. Jack, you want to talk about some of these nuances in here and how we do this?
Yeah, we don't support XP anymore.
That's right.
Thank goodness.
Right. We support the ones Windows actively supports, right?
Yeah. Windows 10 and up. So yeah, you could say starting from XP all the way up, right? It was just a matter of files and registry going all up the chain. Now, remember what I said about we don't move the NT-DAT. That is probably the most important part. We take the tables, or I like to say the NT-DAT is a database, right? We take the tables out of the database. We let the new database create. We put the tables back into the database. The tables are universal across the operating systems, right? Google is Google. It's going to go, these are my settings, put those there. However, Windows 7 database was different than Windows 10 database. Windows 11 database is a little bit different than Windows 10 database for the most part. But the real huge differences between 10 version, 2022 and 2024 really isn't as much in the registry, so much as where it is lately is in the modern apps. The modern apps are really where things are differentiating, so much so that you'll even see like in Microsoft that they're telling you exclude the modern app directory structure. Don't even save it. They tell you don't even save it all at all. They can't restore it. They can't retain it. They can't move it. They don't want you to do anything with it. You can't have it auto login for it. I mean, nothing. They just want you, just don't even touch it, because those applications can, if you try to move it to a new version of the operating system and the apps are on the new operating system, you go back to an old operating system, things get all messed up. Now, I'm not going to say that our profile disk would fix that problem because we'd have the same problem with our profile disks. However, our portability would, because we don't pick that up. We don't pick that up either. But we do pick up the settings. So we're not grabbing the entirety of the applications for things like sticky notes or Teams or OneDrive or whatever, right? We're going to pick up a couple of little settings, right? Settings database here and there for those applications. We'll let the application reload itself and pop those settings back in. So we're not necessarily going to corrupt the reinstallation of the software so much as put the setting databases back in where they're needed without necessarily having to exclude the whole entire directory because we don't know how to handle it. We very much do.
So a day one experience.
Yeah.
A day one experience is going to coexist a profile.
Yes.
You say out of the box because software used to come out of the box, right? But from download day one, you're going to get a robust profile that's going to pick up every application that's well written, that saves to common areas, application data and things like that. All those settings, not the applications themselves, the equivalent of app data type things, the equivalent of where the registry is that saves those small settings, run once dialogues and things like that. And then in addition to that, we're gonna be able to bring that forward and then backwards, coexistent, and we do it with the versions that Windows currently supports, Windows 10 and forward right now. And so you think this problem might be over with? No, it continues and continues, and they're already talking about Windows 12, even though a lot of people aren't on 11 yet. And Windows 12 will probably have a nuanced profile, and we'll send out an update to make sure that out of the box, day one, you'll have that functionality, and that removes the user from having to migrate and be frustrated. So all their data, all their settings is moving with them everywhere they go. So you give them, if they're even in a physical desktop and you plop down, give them a brand new Windows 11 desktop and they've been in 10, that profile is going to come in seconds and it's going to work. And the user is going to be productive because they're going to have familiar things in their environment, all the way down to application data settings.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Jack and I spent some time talking about, some recommendations of where profile management, what we'd recommend for each type of major environments across the industry and what people are putting in these days. So a profile disk, profile portability, which one's needed and why and when. This is a net new slide. So if you're familiar with Liquidware, you haven't probably heard us present maybe some basic recommendations for different types of environments. Let's walk through these real quick. So some of the most modern things going on out there, Windows 365 is a new desktop in the cloud. It's a desktop in the cloud. It's like having a physical persistent desktop in the cloud. It's not physical, but it's a persistent desktop in the cloud. And because it's there in the cloud, you probably don't need a profile. You probably don't need profile disk, or you probably don't need, FSLogix doesn't support it at all. But if you want a profile disk, we do support those, but it's usually not needed. That's because your machines are online and a profile in that persistent desktop is already there. You just need to make sure it's in sync. And in that way, profile portability is needed. If you need to reset that machine at any time, profile portability that we spoke about, a smart profile can come back even cross OS. So, if you're bringing in an old OS into a Windows 365 environment, and you'll soon be able to do that because Microsoft's allowing you to take your image and put it up there in the cloud. So if you're putting a 10 image up there and you want to switch it to 11, profile portability will be easily able to handle that consistency, future-proofing that in the when you get to that point with moving that user over. So let's skip down to the next one. VDI is a non-persistent experience. So yeah, it is very helpful to have a profile disk or FSLogix in an environment like that for retaining the profile state. Because when you have a non-persistent machine, a profile is not sitting in an image waiting for somebody, sitting in a desktop image waiting for somebody to come in. You need to bring it back. You need to bring it back quickly. And that's what a profile disk or FSLogix does very quickly. It is a profile that the OS thinks local, but it's in the cloud or it's on a CIFS drive, right? And profile portability, do you need it? Yeah, you need it for backup for the scenarios we talked about when you blow out that machine or you blow out the profile or have a corrupt profile or an OS upgrade, cross OS, and for DR, as we said too, for disaster recovery of that. So profile disk or FSLogix maintains a fast login, and portability gives you that granular ability to bring in other things, not just in the profile user space, but all the way down to system root. You want to write a rule set, pick something else up, you can do that with our profile portability, with that smart profile I spoke about. So physical PCs, not typically needed because, again, a local profile is sitting there and you're just, if you can have the ability to append to it with the Delta differential with our portability, it gives you that cross OS functionality again. AVD multi-session, we can also say Citrix multi-session in there as well and things that are similar to that. Yes, it's helpful to have a profile disk or FSLogix in there to isolate the user profile on a shared host, and to have the ability to have a fast login. You have also portability in there is great to have in there in case you want to recover a profile at any time, give you flexibility across OS. Profile disk or FSLogix speeds login again, and portability comes in and backs up and can restore and become more granular if needed. And then for hybrid, remember the first slide that we started this presentation with, virtual, physical, cloud. Any way you run Windows, managing all your users all the time with a full solution to do that, yes, it's great to have both of them in there. You don't have to have it in the physical environments for persistent ones, but it can be helpful. And then having the backup or failover of the portability, so you're future-proofing migrations. Again, get the new desktop up and ready, regardless of what type it is, have the user log in, and they're instantly productive. So there's some quick recommendations. New slide, new content from us for that.
I do actually want one comment on that last one. In AVD, if you are cost sensitive to storage, we can offset the storage costs without to basically, if you can't afford the FSLogix volumes, because they can get very large, and the Azure storage compute. If you went to just portability, which is usually 100 times smaller than a FSLogix volume, you can technically do online exchange in an AVD cloud because you're technically on the Microsoft network already, right? So online mode, no need for OSTs, online, right? No cache needed. If you did need to do that, you could also attach a VHD to the operating system for the set OST and not necessarily boil the ocean. The reason why that is an AVD is because that is their go-to profile solution, right? That's their only go-to profile solution. I've been actually talking to a lot of companies about bringing in different solutions to drastically shrink their AVD, especially their storage spend, because they're spending so much money on AVD, Azure storage just for profiles alone, that being able to move to just portability to shrink that down and only focus on Outlook, maybe if that was needed, OSTs, is going to cut their costs down by, well, it could be, they're a large company, by the millions, because of how much they're able to shrink down their storage requirements.
Wow, and it is something that we do here quite often.
Yep.
Let's get right to it with this demo. Jack?
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to be looking at here is basically Windows 10 to 11 migrations. And you can kind of see here, various different files and things like that within there. That's my documents directory. And the various different registry key values within my my current user registry key values for Google and whatever. So starting the migration really is simple. It's just installing the ProfileUnity agent software, getting ProfileUnity set up, creating a brand new configuration, and then going through the wizard. And the guided wizard is going to have a lot of these basic components already set up for you. So in this case here, maybe we'll set up the Windows 10. You can see it's a lot of templates here, but we're going to do the Windows 10, 11, 12, 16, 19, 20, 22. We update those fairly regularly. It's going to go out on my file share, percent users percent. We even have a wizard to automatically create the group policy for you that basically points to where's my configuration on the network share, enable the software. And we'll go and make that, in this case, we're skipping that for right now. And where are we pasting the client tools and the INI configuration? So think kind of like a group policy. Okay. Within the configuration, of course, you can edit any of the settings that you need, but you will see that we have a lot of those already done, right? A lot of the settings are already pre-configured for you out of the box, so there's no having to build from scratch. If you did, however, sorry, there's a couple registry keys in there. For example, trusted network pathing locations for the network shares that you selected, and the folder redirection functions as well. So we're going to move your folder redirection to a new pathing. So wherever you decide, that's going to go, we're going to move that path from its current like C drive location to the network path location, but you can move from network to network if you want to as well. And of course, you can do all different types of things like add in various different shared printers. In this case, we're going to browse out to the print servers and pull stuff in, wrap a filter around it, pull that piece in, print queue stuff. And after they've logged in and logged off their Win 10, they log into their Windows 11 environment. Those Windows 10 settings pop into their Windows 11 environment, and they have basically migrated. So, side effect of managed profile. So it's not like a whole procedure. It really is just get the profile under management in the current version of the operating system you're on. Uh, give it a couple days, whatever, a week, and then move over to the new version. And you're on the new version.
Yep. So it looks very much just like their Windows 10 desktop did, except it's Windows 11. You can do other things if you wanted to make Windows 11 look a little more like Windows 10, shifting some of the taskbar and everything over to the left and things that the user would be familiar with, and you can put in some settings that do things like that.
Right. Yep.
We've got more demos for you. Another demo of the coming up. So stick with us here. But we've got if you have any questions, again, put them right into the chat window, and Ray and Jack are taking a look at them. Ray, if you want to chime in, if you see any we didn't get to, that's great.
We've had some that were asked, and Jack was fast enough to answer them already. So I don't know if we want to keep going, and we can just bring those up later on. But
all right, great. So we spoke a bit about FSLogix. Now that's one small thing. We have a profile disk, but if you want to replace FSLogix, here's some of the need. And Jack, can you walk us through some of the things again? Maybe recap, because you actually brought some of this up earlier.
Yeah. So the first one there is cloud cache possible issues. Some people have issues with cloud cache, some people don't. But when you have issues with cloud cache, you are definitely you know it. And some of those issues can be problems with the double write out. So if you have a solid connection to one file share, but not such a solid connection to a secondary file share, and at log off, you're trying to write to primary is fine, secondary just can never get the job done. Cloud cache fails on a somewhat regular basis. It's extremely frustrating. Might be time to replace it with something different where you write to the backend file share, and then the backend file share does its normal replication from file share to file share on a more consistent basis. So instead of trying to do the replication or the cloud caching, if you will, from the client to server, you're doing client server and then server to server. A little more cleaner. More cohesive management. And what that basically means is instead of bringing 5, 6 different tools together to make them try to sing the same sheet music, ProfileUnity is one tool, right? It is a profile management, it's policy management, it's rights management, app management. It's all those things that may have been acquired by the platform vendors in one product line, right? So I'm not going to say, Citrix, go talk to Microsoft, or Microsoft, go talk to VMware. It's all one product line. So we do the profiles, we do the profile disks, we do the applications, we do, the policies, we do all of those parts. So you don't have to point fingers. You can just basically go to the profile guys and the policy guys, and we handle it. And again, ultimately, it's up to you. If you want to keep the FSLogix, I don't fight that battle. I just go, okay, well, we will work with it. We absolutely can. We'll use portability as a backup retain. We use FSLogix as that piece. If we do have that cloud cache problem, what we'll do is we'll keep the FSLogix disk on primary site 1, and we'll keep FSLogix on primary site 2. We'll use portability to replicate between the two sites so that you can restore the profiles back and forth between the two primary different sites without having to do cloud cache technologies. And you still have the ability to do that cross operating system components and pieces if you want to. So if you have to have OS disk 2 or OS disk 1 between the operating systems, you can certainly do that. And the big part, and it's usually my mic drop when people go, well, what's the difference between you and FSLogix? What's the difference between Liquidware and FSLogix? Support. It goes a long way. It goes a very long way. When you are in a jam and you have to call up Microsoft for support, I mean, if any of you engineers have been there, I know I have, you pretty much want to rip your hair out if you have any left. You want to rip your hair out and go, why did I talk to Microsoft about a free product? They obviously do not care. Whereas with Liquidware, this is our product. This is bread and butter. we need to make sure this works. So of course we're going to have good support. We're going to have good sales engineers that help you any way we possibly can to make sure that you get, the best support and knowledge from, about profiles, about disks, about, anything we can possibly help you with. So,
yeah, I've been in this industry a long time. Go back to even early 2000s and worked a little bit with RES and seeing it come up. And I can tell you from my experience is that, Liquidware probably has about 10 of the top Windows profile experts in the world. There's probably, I would say, in the entire world, 40 or 50 in the entire world that are the caliber that we have here. And you're going to have 10 of them that work for Liquidware at a minimum, maybe as many as 15. So you're going to be able to solve unique profile challenges and be able to get support. And also that doesn't even count our support staff, right? Which is excellent and award winning, but that counts people like Jack that are out there helping you guys in the world solve your unique challenges, context awareness, all the way down to Windows profile versions and little things that are holding up user logins and such. All right, I think we've covered this one a great deal. We're going to show a quick demo of this, though, coming up. It's easy to set up our profile disk in lieu of FSLogix if that's what you've chosen to do. We support VMDKs in those types of environment. We do support alternative formats or have, but largely the world is looking at, VHDX is what we support by default. It's the easiest way to support it. We do support other formats like VMDKs, but there's dependencies when you get to third parties that you're dependent on in the industry. So VHDXs are the format to go after there. We support any type of Windows environment. And then there's many benefits that we've already discussed. So I want to jump right into this demo of how you would set that up.
All right, so this is going to look very familiar to the last demo we went through because it's a similar setup. If you wanted to set up your profile with a profile disk technology, it's the same thing, create guided. So we're going to go through that guided setup again. But instead of selecting the option for just the desktop, we're going to do the desktop with the profile disk technology and select next. We're going to, again, throw it to a file share path location or select home share. So again, file share / whatever / %username %. All right. And then that's going to kind of correspond with a profile group, and it's going to kind of correspond with the disk pathing locations, as you can see there with the same disk pathing locations. It's an expandable volume. It's 20 gig. Our client tools are going to go where they're going to go, and you're going to deploy out the client configurations for that. We also do have the automatic group policy setup components that we touched on in the previous demo as well. So we're going to kind of move on from that. And of course, you're going to deploy the client tools. Again, these client tools are going to be the same. It's the same INI type thing that we did in the last demo. It's very much the same thing. Profile disk is actually configured more in the admin section, less so in the INI. So when you go into the INI, you will not see a profile disk button in here. You'll see portability, but you will not see a profile disk piece in there. That is actually going to be in the admin section if you want to edit it or change it or do anything like that, because that is a more a global entity. It's either on or off. So you'll see we're going, they're changing here. We're changing the name of the configuration.
Yeah, and that's the summary of how easy it is to set it up out of the box. So you end up actually with a profile disk set up there and with portability out of the box. So you've got both in that one configuration. The screen that showed the feature sets and portability, of course, was in there. And Jack talked about how it's actually in the admin part. And the funny thing there is why that actually is.
Yeah.
Because in that main screen that you saw there, all the feature sets, that's what our ProfileUnity client, those are all the things that it does. Our profile disk runs so early up in the logon process, it needs to be there right before even the ProfileUnity agent runs, and that's why it's managed slightly out of bounds. So you have that ability to have it there just in time when the user's logging on.
Yeah, yeah, it's handled in the credential handler way early in the chain.
All right, so back to these 4 use cases that we spoke about. Now, we've taken you through the challenges of streamlining profile management, as that one was bigger earlier. And that's what we focused on in today's webinar. But we do want to reiterate, and we're going to show you that screen I was talking about here with all the feature sets, that this is ProfileUnity. You license it one way. You get all the functionality of the comprehensive user management and application management that you'll see there, where you can manage your profiles and your apps and configurations across all your Windows desktops. The centralized context awareness that you can get out of there is unparalleled. So a lot of hospitals use this, and a lot of education institute, higher ed uses this, where you have a lot of users that might be mobile over a big campus, hospital campus or a university campus and things like that. You're going to have the ability to replace scripting. You're going to be loosely managing things through ADMX and things like that. You're going to be able to replace tools that might work with one vendor, with your VDI vendor, but you need something that works across all your desktops. And then you're going to have this one central management console that's going to be able to manage registry settings, includes set a registry setting, do it on a context-aware basis, set printers, as you saw earlier in the other demo, map a drive, do all those policy management, even lock down Windows settings. If you don't want people to open up Windows Control Panel, we can hide those entirely. If you don't want people to install things from USB for security reasons, we can disable executables from USB. There's a lot of things that you can do when you talk about the power of the registry that we have, all the way to HKey local machine level, where an admin, you'd have to be an admin to undo those things. Users, standard users, will have a very secure environment out of there. And when you manage a desktop this way, you're going to greatly reduce the cost of managing a desktop, as much as $200 per user annually. So we can tie a lot of things back to ROI for you when you start looking at the solution. But this is a magnified view of that demo screen that you saw earlier. This is the ProfileUnity Management Console. You'll remember that the configuration that you saw earlier up there at the very top, where it says Edit Configuration, from day one, like out of the box, it was going to give you a robust profile. It was going to give you the ability to have folders redirected and files harvested. So My Documents is going to be harvested to where you want it to go. So you also decouple that if you wish. Throttling is going to be built in there, so you don't cripple the network when you turn that harvesting on, to take that real estate off of the desktops out there, physical desktops where you've had users saving things for years. You need to get into best practices. We'll take care of all that. So out of the box, it does a lot of those things, and also tunes a few things for ProfileUnity to run. But I want to walk you through some of the most powerful features just while looking at the screen here, some of the things that are used in here the most. Look over at the left. Everything in here is all these features that you see on the right are managed with things that you see on the left. Filter management, that's context-aware filter management. You want things to ring true at a certain time of day. Applications to appear on desktops only if you're logged into a specific Wi-Fi access point rather than at home for compliance reasons. You set up a filter to do that. Manage printers, given that a user's logged in a hospital on floor 19 versus floor number 2 at the bottom. So when they print things, things go closest to them. That's going to be in filter management. And you can do this on hundreds of different combinations. If they're in a specific AD group, for example, and also if their machine name starts with this or ends with that, you can do all these things. If they're on a specific IP address range, make these things run true. If you can think of it, there's a way to build a filter around it, is my point. That's filter management. So any of these things can ring true based on not only for a user, but also for a specific context. Portability management that you see on the left, that's those rule sets I talked about that makes a smart profile, portable profile. It goes and runs hand in hand with what you see directly in the middle of the screen. Portability settings. You see we have 41 to choose from in this environment. 21 are activated for users in there. If there's a rule set that we haven't built right out of that box from day one that picks up application data and things like that, you've got a homegrown app that's saving to a weird spot, go over to portability management, pick part of the file system, pick part of the registry system where you know those things save, and it'll start to be treated as part of that user smart profile. And not for all users if you don't want it to, because then you can have a filter arranged with that, right? And then you see inventory management that runs in the background, and that'll grab inventory of applications installed, but it'll also help you manage our Flex app functionality. Now, Flex app is managed with this same central Liquidware console. You see those over here on the right, up in the right-hand corner. Flex app and Flex app 1 is managed with this Liquidware ProfileUnity console. So if you've licensed for that and you have those dynamically attached applications, all this will be in one. When we brought Flex app to market in 2011 and 12, when we were looking at it, we were like, we need an engine to get these apps out there. Well, ProfileUnity is the perfect user management engine to do that. Context awareness, the inventory we were already doing and everything, and that's why we managed it from one central console. You'll also see other things in here for other types of apps. You'll see a feature set in here for MSIX, so you can deploy MSIXs this way. You'll see a feature set in here for App V. You can deploy App V this way as well, right? Because the server is end of life. You'll see ThinApp in here because that goes way back to when VMware, now that spun off to Omnissa, asked us, can we help deploy and cache ThinApps down to the endpoint? So you can do those things in there as well. Shortcuts to the desktop for SaaS apps, we got you covered on that too. Salesforce.com, drop it off, create it, put it right on the desktop for your sales and marketing folks or something like that. That's just an example, right? Printers, you saw that, shared printers earlier. So these are some of the most popular functionality out of here. We can run ADMX templates too. You see administrative templates on the left. There's 4 to choose from, 3. You can put more in there. Have us manage your ADMX templates and apply them down to the endpoint. So with AAD, root policy preferences are no longer like a thing, right? We replace all that and we can run your ADMX templates and things like that if you're going to AAD. So keep us in mind for those scenarios as well. Now, these things get run at login and logged off by default, but you can also set up a trigger point to do these, or you can choose some of these things for post login. So that's what trigger points are down at the bottom. So if something's changed in an environment, like a Wi-Fi access point, when a doctor's moved to a different location, and they connect, map the printers there. Maybe you've set that up. Maybe they're logged on at home. That's how trigger points work. And you do other restrictions are locked down the desktop. So again, a lot of things set up out of the box. Use as little or as much as you need for an environment. No 2 enterprise customers are identical, right? A lot of things that you need will be set up, and a lot of things we'll configure with you through our experts like Jack to be able to do that. Our architecture is also simple. So with the time available, I'm going to run through this real quick. You already have everything needed to run ProfileUnity. This says cloud, but you can run it on a CIFS drive too for storage. You have your endpoints. That's represented down here in the bottom left. You've got different types of endpoints. Maybe it's representing those different ones that we talked about today. And those can be in the cloud too. When a user logs on, they're going to have the ProfileUnity agent that's going to be there, and it's already embedded in that image, and it's going to be waiting for its instructions. It's going to look to an INI file that's sitting out on a CIFS drive or on a cloud share to be able to see that latest configuration from that management console we just looked at and say, all right, Jason just logged on, and he's in this department, and he's going to have these things done, map drive, printers, bring in his profile, do all these things. Seconds at login that happens. You're going to take a login, most often that might have been 2 or 3 minutes long, and not just with the profile, but configuration of everything that happens is going to be reduced down to under a minute a lot of times. You're going to take that overall login time and greatly reduce it down, not only the profile, but the configuration of that machine. And then when I save data in the future, it's going to be in best practices because we talked about that earlier, right? We handled that through redirects and things of that nature. So the ProfileUnity management console can actually go offline. That's right. The ProfileUnity management console can go offline. And then the only thing it's going to be missing is we're going to check for a ProfileUnity license every now and then, and it's going to realize it's down. It's going to fail safe. Users are going to be up and running all the time. So note what's missing in here when you're used to other things that you've seen in the industry. SQL clusters, not needed. Load balancers to make sure HA is there, not needed. because we're relying on Windows storage points, right? We can do failover with simple storage and things like that. Very simple infrastructure. The way that Ivanti's got it set up is overcomplicated in our opinion. You can save cost in there to pay for your licenses alone when you compare us to things like that. That's our architecture in a quick nutshell. We continue to take questions in the background. We're going to wrap things up with questions in a minute. You're going to see some other opportunities to engage with us with some demos and things. But we were first to market with a portable profile that worked across all versions of Windows. We were first to market with moving user-authored data in the background. We actually have one of the most robust engines that still do that, get you in best practices. Context-aware app deployment for things like ThinApp and through FlexApp, first to market with those things. We integrated application rights management. No need to purchase an additional license. That's integrated in there. Privilege elevation, we didn't even get to talk about that today. That's something that we can do too for standard users. Application restrictions, we can do whitelist, we can do blacklist. That way we can, if you have things in a base image, we can take care of those. We can help with license enforcement for a third-party app like that. Cloud native profiles saved to 3 of any of the largest clouds out there available. We were first to market with that and still the most flexible. Optionally attaching the applications with FlexApp that's embedded. You're not going to find that anywhere else with user and app management in one solution. And we were the first to market in many of the marketplaces out there for our user and app management, and with the universal folder and file redirection that we just implemented in the last 18 months. Universally allowing you to redirect any registry key and any file key in there. There's other things on here I've omitted, but we are a leader in full user and app management, and I'm just asserting that here. First to market in a lot of things for FlexApp as well. We're not talking about that today. Those are part of another webinar if you want to take a look at that. So those are our major use cases. Today we spent the most time on streamlining profile management. But between FlexApp and ProfileUnity, you can do everything you see here on the screen. You get that comprehensive user and app management with one central management console. So we do have an active community that's available out there. Ray, if you want to walk us through some of these things.
Sure, that's great. We've got some questions, and before we get to those, so if you have more, go ahead and put those in the Q&A window. But if we don't get a chance to answer your questions, or maybe after the webinar is over today and you're like, oh, what about this one? And something popped in your mind, we encourage you to join our Slack community channel. And in there, we have so many of those experts that Jason was talking about here, is those really great experts in the industry. Our support people are on there. Jack and Jason are both on there, as long as our developers and a lot of the great leaders that we have in the space are a part of that community. And it's a great way to access their knowledge and ask questions. It's also a great place. We have a lot of other customers. So people that maybe are running into some of the challenges that you're running into, or some of the use cases that you're running into. It's a great way for people to share their knowledge and their experience with one another out there as well. So we encourage you to join that and take any other questions or comments or thoughts in there as well. I know that we've got a few customers on here, and so we'll kind of cover this one here. If you are a customer, you've used our solutions, we encourage you to go and scan one of these QR codes and one of these links, and take a survey. Take a 10-minute survey from Gartner. This is not necessarily us. This stuff kind of comes in anonymous, but we've garnered a 4.8 rating on Gartner for our ProfileUnity and FlexApp solutions, and actually our whole solution set as a whole. And it's a great way to share your feedback about how you use our solutions and what your feelings are on there. And if you take that 10 minutes, Gartner will provide a $25 gift card for your time for that. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and do that. But we do have some questions here, and I'm going to actually cover some of the questions that Jack had already gone in and answered, just because in case someone maybe hadn't seen this. One of the questions that we had is, how does this solution handle multiple sessions from multiple devices simultaneously?
Yeah, our portability engine is the beautiful thing out of that. You can have multiple profile desks, but they need to be kept in sync, right? And that's true out of FSLogix too. But our portability engine sits there waiting, and when a user logs in, we're going to bring in the most latest copy of their profile and make sure it is as up to date as possible, right? And we do write back that profile at user log off and log in. So if you're getting, if the question starts to get to about last write wins, that long-standing thing about if I have 2 machines logged on and which one's going to get it, we can overcome last write wins as strong as any player in the market, and we can do that with our trigger points. We can save back the profile on application close, for example. And at application close, it's going to write back during the user session that part of app data, for example, the things that have changed, and then we can sync that up in the new environment to give you an application a profile refresh if needed. That said, most of the time, almost all users are happy with not even configuring a finite profile. If they sync up in 1 or 2 logins, users don't notice. So you're covered either way. If you want to get finite, we can help you set that up to the most finite that you can on getting a profile synced up. If not, the majority of the profile is going to come in every single time delta differentials are written for those rule sets. And that's the way that we support that. That's the way that we keep profile disks, our FSLogix in sync, our profile portability technology. It solves all that.
Great. Someone had asked how they can try ProfileUnity. And so I'm going to go ahead and put a link in the chat window out to everyone. That is a great way to do it. But Jason or Jack, do you want to talk a little bit about the process for trying it out?
Yep, 15-day trial. And Jack, well, once they download that, they're off to the races for a 15-day trial, I believe is the standard. And you get a configuration out of the box.
A lot of times there's an engagement with the sales team and the SE, like myself. We help you through the installation if that's something you need help with, or you can be on your own if you want to. Most people take me up on the offer to help them through it, get things configured, work through their particular needs of their environment, answer any questions they might have throughout the weeks of their testing.
Yep, we do have a quick start guide that's available on our documentation page as well. That'll help you. It says do this, do that, test this, test that if you want to. But yes, a lot of times when you're an enterprise, you just want to set up an appointment with us. You can do that by sending us an email at info@Liquidware. We'll set up a quick appointment with you to get you up and running in an environment. The info email's there, but my email is jason.smith@Liquidware. So if you want to engage with me directly and we can help stitch you up with your region, feel free to email me too, jason.smith.
Great. We're going to kind of cover some of these other questions that we're hearing. Someone asked about, the portability, and was it native to FlexApp by default or as an add-on? I know we've kind of covered this a little bit a few times, but just in case anyone missed that portion of it, Jack, you want to cover that?
Everything with ProfileUnity that we talked about in FlexApp are included in the same product line. We kind of advertise the products as 2 different things because the core product lines like Citrix and VMware or NISA now sort of advertise them as 2 different product lines because they acquired them as 2 different product lines, whereas ProfileUnity and FlexApp have always been 1 product line. We just sort of say ProfileUnity and FlexApp, but FlexApp is a module within ProfileUnity and is part of the ProfileUnity product itself. So if you just happen to use only the FlexApp part of ProfileUnity, you still own ProfileUnity. If you only use the portability part of ProfileUnity, you still own FlexApp.
Yep.
So it's I know it sometimes can be a little confusing, but you own it all. We don't do a la carte stuff.
And when a FlexApp runs, so a FlexApp looks so native to the OS that it's going to run just like a native application. And therefore, it's going to save your profile data in app data, right? Most of the time, in registry most of the time, unless it's a poorly written app. And then so whatever profile solution in the world would pick that up, right? By default, because if it's a well-written app. In the case of us, when that's also activated, we're going to be managing that. We're going to be managing that because it's in a native place of Windows. So I hope that answers that too.
Great. We have someone that was talking about asking questions about how the software is licensed. And this is somebody that was from a community college. Just in general, The best way for people to get pricing information is to reach out to info@liquidware.com. Is that correct, Jason?
That's right. That's right. Usually our licensing is going to sync up with the other platforms that you have. If it's VMware, Citrix, I mean, Omnissa or Citrix or Nerd, even with some of the other later ones like AVD, we are licensed as a subscription. We'll give you an annual type price. If you break that down per month, you could figure out what that would be, but we're licensed per annual subscription. And so we can get licensing to you. But when it breaks down to per month pricing, which we don't, but per month it's several dollars a month is as close as I can get with you on that. We'll get you very specific pricing even for EDU if you reach out to us, please.
Great. Well, with that being said, we are at the top of the hour. So again, I want to encourage anyone, if you had a question that maybe we didn't have time to get to, there's a lot of information here. We encourage you to join our Slack channel. I put a link to that in the chat here as well. That QR code on the slide here will take you there as well. And we'll make sure that we include that in the follow-up email. So just a reminder, we will send out a link to this recording. And again, encourage you to share this with people from your team that maybe couldn't be on here or use it for review. So keep an eye on your inbox later on today for a link to that recording. And with that, thank you, Jason and Jack. And thank you all for attending today.
Thank you.